Oh, I didn't. I thought that was like a hymn you were singing.
You thought "Stand in the Place Where You Live"?
I just don't recognize it. I don't recognize it.
Oh my goodness! It's because I was singing it.
No, I don't
Dale
know.
tells me whenever I sing a song, he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't recognize."
I
that.
might recognize like guitar riff or something if that was, part of the song. I can't even like think of the song.
Stand in the place where you live.
Now face north. Think about.
I don't know.
Direction. I was like, and they turn in the video. Okay, I guess not. I know we're being recorded now. I'm a little nervous. Try not to sing.
Well, hey everybody. Holly's figured it out. Welcome to the Next Day podcast.
The next day on your discipleship journey.
I'm Chad.
I'm Christy.
And we're joined by
Holly Gibson.
Woo!
Yay! Earlier when we were doing a sound check, Holly was going off on singing that song. It was like karaoke, and we just couldn't stop her. And I just wish I could have recorded, but we were still doing sound check stuff. So.
Just too smart for you, Chad.
Yeah, that's right. She, Holly is not only our executive director here at St. Peter's, but is also a faithful listener of the Next Day podcast. She knows how this goes. On
her long drive home, she's like, "What can I do for entertainment? I know, the Next Day podcast." If I post it in time.
So your drive is what, like an hour?
It's just a little over an hour.
A little over an hour.
Ooh.
And she listens to like all the sermons.
I do.
And the podcast.
She critiques us relentlessly.
I do not.
She's they did this one better.
Yeah. No,
here's your heresy here.
We rely on Holly for feedback for sure. We're like, you actually listened. Maybe the only person.
Not
you,
true.
You and Faye.
I think
Faye.
Hi, Faye.
Yeah. We have other people who listen. Even our listeners
Bill
are devoted.
Kemp. We've got Bill.
Yeah.
Hi Bill. Shout out. We get sometimes fan mail or a fan hello, just saying I love the podcast, and we're always grateful for that affirmation.
Yeah. And I think Randy Baker, I don't know, does he listen to the Next Day? I know he contributes a lot to the This Day podcast.
Well, I don't know. Randy, let us know if you heard this.
Randy Baker.
We
should have him record like an intro to like, welcome to the Next Day podcast. with his
radio voice.
Yeah. But anyways, well, glad you all could be here. So this is the podcast where we talk about all the sermons that you just heard on Sunday. So if you were in the Element, you got to hear Christy, as is tradition.
As is tradition.
Speaking of traditional, you did preach in there, but I think I'm going to put up, we're going to have Alyssa's
on the podcast,
yeah. Because otherwise you get to hear you twice. Nobody wants that.
No,
and
so, of course not.
So you get to hear Alyssa, our children's director, give a wonderful, nice sermon for our VBS Sunday in the traditional service, and you get to hear Carl over at the West Campus. But before we do that, let's just talk about. Can I just share some kind of craziness that's kind of happened?
Oh my gosh!
Sure,
Chad. I have no idea what is about to transpire. I'm a little nervous. What happened?
So this last weekend, I went to Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
That's where Christy was born and raised. That's why she got her name.
No. My name is Christmas. We all know that.
It's Christmas. But I went to my sister's wedding. So this is her second marriage, and it's also her husband, or now husband's, like, it's his second marriage also. But they were wanting to do this wedding out on the beach, so it was really nice and all that. But man, like, there was some craziness that ensued.
Oh boy.
The venue was really nice. It was really cool. the guy who was doing the wedding like went off into like a whole stand-up routine. It seemed like with the vows
Was it
and
you?
all that. No, it was not me. But he was going off and like it was just kind of like the vows are just it's almost like just one joke after another after another after another. But what happened? What the weird part was, and I just want y'all to tell me this: do I look like I just don't have fun and I just have just a sad, depressed look on my face all the time? Like think of me just casually, like in a meeting or something. Do I
your
have
resting face?
Your
Yeah.
resting face.
that? Which it comes to that term, by the way. The term you're thinking of. Do I have that?
Maybe. I don't know. I've never known. I just know you as like goofy. Like, so I don't think if I see your resting face, I'm thinking like he's either coming up with a joke or is like perturbed by something in the meeting and is like thinking of how you're going to address it because you will address it.
So at the reception, we're at the beach house that a lot of my family had and all this. Sable and I were in a different hotel up in Corpus, but the actual wedding was in Port Aransas. And so we were at this beach house, and we were waiting. The pictures were still being taken. Like, we already did our pictures, so we're back at the beach house. We were just kind of waiting for the bride and groom, for my sister and now brother-in-law to come back so we could start eating and all this. But we're having to wait around. So a few of his in-laws, the thing is, he also had like a family reunion that same week. So there were some very distant relatives that we probably won't see too often who were also there. So they were in the beach house. And so we're all kind of making small talk and all this. I noticed Sable's off on a couch somewhere. And then some in-law, he's like sitting there talking with her. And I figured it's just small talk, right? Just like, oh, where are you from? Okay, what do you do? How do you know the bride and groom? How do you know, that kind of stuff. I'm over by the food trying to keep a dog from eating it all. And apparently, okay, from my point of view, all of a sudden this guy who was talking to Sable just comes up to me aggressively.
Oh, dear.
I've never met this guy. I have a drink in my hand. He grabs both of my arms and just starts shaking me.
What?
Just shaking me. And so my drink's
And you've
like
never
spilling.
met him?
I've never met him. My drink's spilling. And I think that's kind of what made him stop. Because, oh, I'm sorry. I was just like, hello? Hello? And so I was just like, okay, what were they talking about? What were they doing over there and all that? And so then he's sitting there just, introducing himself. There's curse words every other word, and he's just
How much had he had to drink?
I don't know. He found out I went to SFA. He went to Sam Houston, so obviously that made
y'all
more
are enemies.
Yeah, so that made more curse words come out of his mouth, and then. So then I later heard from Sable saying how he was looking at me and he was just like, man, he just never looks like he's having fun, does he? He has resting something face. And I was just like, he said that about me? And she's like, yeah, he just said that about you. And
Wow.
he said, I'm going to go cheer him up. I'm going to go shake him.
Well,
I guess that happens.
What a weird interaction.
But the funny part, I'm curious, I need to talk with other clergy if they've experienced this before, is as he's sitting there just talking with me, curse words everywhere, and he started asking me, so what did you do at SFA? What did you study? I was like, I studied theater, and he's more curse words talking about theater, and then he's like, so what do you do now? I was like, well, I'm a pastor at a United Methodist Church, and then you can see him just, well, we try to take our son as often as we can to church, and we try to. I mean, his demeanor just changed. And my dad was nearby; he wasn't part of the conversation, and he was just like laughing, going, "Man, he changed his tune really fast when he heard that you're a pastor." And I should have just started it when he's shaking me. I should have been like, "I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor."
Or maybe tell Sable to tell him that ahead of time.
Yeah, I guess so.
When he says he looks angry, well, he's a pastor, so he's clearly judging you.
Yeah,
she was trying to give me clues. She was trying to make eye contact, trying to warn me, but I don't know what's going on. So
anyways,
my
gosh, that's so weird.
It's good to meet the in-laws,
yeah,
and all that. So.
I really had no idea where this was going. I was like, maybe they ended up not getting married, and then you're like said that they did get married. So I was like, okay, it wasn't that. Was there like a a storm that hit the beach that I didn't know about.
No,
you know?
they got married. It was a beautiful ceremony. It was like a very nice day and everything. So, but I just had to share. I was like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on.
I've been told I have resting sad face, so I don't know.
Because you're always crying at everything. Well, if that wasn't the icebreaker, let's get to our icebreaker. Holly, pick cards 1, 2, or 3. You're picking the middle. My favorite month of the year is... So what is your favorite month of the year?
January.
January?
I love the fresh start.
That is nice.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
Is that
do
fresh
love
start in
January.
terms of church finances and everything? It's like, okay, everything's
Well, so,
good.
I mean, yes, that's probably fair. But it was before I ever had anything to do with church finances. I love the new beginning. I love the thought of kind of a clean slate and being able to start your year fresh with, whether you do New Year's resolutions or not, just kind of, like you said, a fresh budget, a fresh school semester, everything.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Oh, January's a great answer. What's yours, Chad?
Y'all are not going to believe this because at the same time it's like my worst enemy, but it's October.
Pumpkins!
I know.
It's pumpkins!
Because October, okay, other than, people like to say, y'all's church season must be really busy during Advent and Easter. It's like, you're right about all that. But for some reason, October is just the busiest. But besides the busyness of all that, I love the weather. Mm-hmm. I love just kind of those days where you go outside and you actually kind of you get a big whiff of air and it's like, it's not just hot. And I feel like it's just fall. And also I just love, I'm not saying I'm super into Halloween, but I do kind of just like the build up to it and all the other kind of fun stuff leading up. I don't know. It's just something about some of the, I don't know. It's something about it's just fun. Whenever you hear, I'm not the biggest in horror movies, but just seeing there's marathons of all these scary movies and all this, and then I don't know, just something about it's just a lot of fun. So October is really cool, and it's football season. So going out to a high school game or something during the when it's nice and cool around that time. September games are the worst. I just gotta tell students, do not invite me to y'all's games until the temperature hits this. But yeah, I would say October is pretty fun.
I have no idea. I can't think of a month that I
Your birthday month?
love more than another. I love them for all different reasons. January is a great answer. October is a great answer. I do love February. I love December. I love the summer months. I love the spring.
Play the game.
This is very foreign.
Come on, Christmas.
I love them all. I just don't know. I guess I'm going to pick I don't know.
Riveting.
I don't know. I think I'm going to pick March or April, somewhere in I just love when the flowers start blooming and you start to see the butterflies and the birds and your little seeds that you've planted are starting to kind of crop up again.
Now.
Yeah, think of gardening. Yeah.
The hippie pastor, the gardening pastor.
But I don't like when it's just constant. I do love rainy days, but I'm I need a good mix. I don't like when it's rainy and cold. So it has to be further enough into spring that I enjoy it. But I will say when it's still early spring and I still am we can validate having a fire in the fireplace, then I don't care what the weather is outside.
Yeah. Some people just have fires nonstop, I think. So, but yeah, those are our favorite months. So let's get on to talk about the sermons. This was a interesting Sunday just because anyone who attended the traditional service, no matter which service you attended, it was a little different. Even if you attended the earlier service, even though all the kind of order of worship was typical, but the stage was all decked out in VBS
There
gear.
was no podium. The altar was way off to the side. I mean, this is the first time ever in the sanctuary that I have preached from just a regular what do you call
Music
it?
stand?
It wasn't a music stand, but Alyssa and Paige brought it over
it's their own smaller podium. It's not
Yeah.
as big as like a
You know,
pulpit.
the stick thing. I don't know if it's like a lectern. I don't know what the official name is of it, but anyway.
But it was all decorated for VBS. Which, speaking of VBS, before we get too much further, that's why we have Holly on. Is because we would have people are probably, well, why don't y'all have Paige and Alyssa on? Why don't y'all? Well, they took the day off.
Well deserved.
They've had a long week of VBS and
a month of VBS really,
Yeah.
because it was like prep week and then VBS for West, and then they had like a week in between, and then I guess that was prep week,
prep week.
and then they had Kingsland VBS, and then they had to get VBS Celebration Sunday all put together, and so June was completely VBS nonstop.
Yeah, and while we were just chilling on the beach, they were having to prep for you.
I know.
For our beach retreat. But Holly was played a part in VBS, and you may have heard her last week. A little shout out to her as she came by and said hi and all that during our.
I knew what you were doing. Somebody was like, "Oh, they're not having the podcast." I'm like, "Oh, yes, they are. That's it right there." Yeah. I have heard them do this before.
That's right.
And for people listening, for people who listened to last week, we were live in the hallways and we were sitting around the little decorated area. And as people were walking by, we were talking to them. We were doing the podcast, right?
Right.
So Lou Lefevre, wonderful.
Where is this going?
Church member, but also I don't think anyone has more fun at VBS than Lou Lefevre.
He loves it.
He helped out with preschool games, which was right down the hallway in Asbury Hall. Like he could see us where we were recording. And so he came up to me later that day on Monday, because that was the next day for the next day podcast. Okay.
Right.
Anyway. He came up to me and was just like, Chad, I was looking at you down there, and as we had kids everywhere and kids were walking by, I just saw you just sitting there. And I was like, is he going to do anything? And then you were just sitting there. And then you were just sitting there. I was like, I guess he's not going to do anything. I was just like, Lou, we were recording the podcast. And he was like, oh, okay. I was like, do you really think I'm just sitting there just like, well, this is what I do. I just sit here.
Sit on a bucket at a fake campfire during VBS.
I was just like, yeah, I don't really do much.
You and your resting face.
Yes.
I was thinking the other person to say that's like super excited is Jim Musselman.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
He loves it. It's
Now,
incredible.
He gets
him.
into the dancing.
Yeah.
I will say Jim Musselman, but like Robert Bossert, another another church member, he takes off work every year to be able to participate in VBS.
With the group in front of us in the sanctuary.
And then Randy and Tiffany Nelson also both take off work every year. I mean, a lot of people do. I'm just naming the people I know that I've talked to that they say, oh, I take off work for this. I love it. It's just so much fun. And I mean, the joy of VBS is just...
It's infectious.
It is. It really is.
Holly, did you take off work for...
I did.
She had to put in extra hours after the fact.
My work was really flexible with me about this. But yeah, so Elizabeth Booker and I were class leaders, and I think we've now done this for 4 years together.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how many years we've been doing this together. Prior to that, I wasn't on staff the last one before that was in 2019. And I worked with Alyssa on like the stuff that they do to prep, and you guys would not believe, I think y'all know, but the listeners would not believe how much work goes into this, how much the children's team does. It's incredible.
I mean, just for Kingsland, there's 280 kids, right?
Right.
Yes.
So that's just think about organizing the shirts.
Yeah.
Like just that alone is like pretty, that's a lot,
It's
right?
everything. And, I did class lead, but I also help with check-in, just because it's something I'm fairly familiar with. And what was funny is how many people came up to me and said, this is the most well-organized VBS I've ever seen.
I also did check-in and check-out too, and at a different table, but we heard the same thing. I mean, everybody was just like, I've done... because a lot of people will register their kids for like every VBS in town because it's like, I mean, let's be real. It's like cheap childcare, it's not very expensive. Some VBSs are free. We've had to, I think we've had people pay for our VBS for a long time, just to help with the cost and everything, but it's super nominal, expense. And so they'll just go kind of like church hop to do different VBSs. And so we'll hear feedback from people who have gone to so many, and they're like, this is the most organized VBS, like the smoothest process, everything is great. And
I wish there was a way, like, I'm sure parents could do that, but I wish there was a way, like, maybe some of the older kids could, like, hey, rate your favorite VBS. And but I don't know, they just come and they just have fun, I think. I don't know if they're really thinking of it in terms of, like, oh, well, this church actually did this, and wow, this church did, Yeah. But Holly, what was y'all's group?
So we had second graders that are going into third grade, and there were 11, and they were lovely. We had a great time.
And what was y'all's name?
And we were the Scouts.
The Scouts.
Holly was Emmy's leader.
Oh, yeah. Hang out with Emmy?
I got to hang out with Emmy all week, which is one of my favorite activities.
Yes.
So.
Now,
She
did
had
Emmy
so much
ever
fun.
try to take control, like, just take the lead?
Probably.
No, but
No?
she always
Okay.
had the most well thought out answers, because when we have snack time, we sit and go through questions about the verse that day, about the lesson in general that we're going through. And obviously she's definitely well versed, but she's just such a sweet, thoughtful kid. And the other kids too, it was amazing to me, because we had one child that was really kind of closed off at the beginning, nervous about being here. And she opened up just blossomed like a flower, to your, March, April reference.
Yes.
And she was telling me all about how the Holy Spirit lives inside of you and all this sweet stuff. And I was like, this is why we do this.
Yeah.
And so I think the kids get just so much out of it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The kids and Lula Fever.
And the leaders.
Well, yes, I
the
think-
leaders we do.
Yeah, the leaders. I mean, it's interesting. Every time I've been a part of, VBS, like in a teaching capacity, I'm always like, and it's so cliche, but I'm like, you are probably learning more from the kids than they're even like learning from you. It's like stuff that you need to be reminded of, in your adult life. And, just like a reminder of childlike faith. And it's just it's so rewarding in both ways. You're getting to teach these kids about Jesus and love and grace, and, just affirming those things in their lives that are so going to be like hugely, eternally impactful for them. But then like at the same time, like you're being reminded of those things, and, they're teaching you, about what's important in life. And it's so great. I love it. I love VBS.
It is. And I love the decor all over the place. I love the energy. I help out with the students who are also leaders, class leaders, and all this. And so I really enjoy, if it wasn't for I have so much other stuff I have to try to do for the summer, so I am a little bit stressed, but if I could but I really do enjoy just walking around and floating around, visiting all the different groups and saying hi and checking in on stuff. And it's always a lot of fun seeing all the great stuff. And also I take some of the kids' snacks and all that, It says, oh, you're not going to finish that.
Oh, wait,
And
the
then I
hospitality room, though.
Hospitality room is where it's at.
It
So
is.
great.
Man, one day I snuck in and got breakfast tacos. Oh my goodness.
Yes, we have.
We were spoiled.
Okay, future church idea. Instead of a chili cook-off, well, we can still do chili cook-off. Okay, we're not replacing it.
Whoa.
We're not replacing it.
What is that?
But in addition,
Okay.
we have a breakfast casserole off.
Oh, we
Like-
all know who's going to win. Chase.
Chase.
Yeah, Chase
Yeah.
one of our,
So-
on our facilities team is really good at breakfast casserole.
Came in on his day off to bring the breakfast casserole.
But
So
there's
that's
so many.
dedication.
There was
Yeah.
another one that was super good, and I was trying to ask who made this one. They're like, well, we can't remember. But every time, where this Christmas Eve service, people bring food for all the different stuff happening, and then same thing with Easter and all that, all these different breakfast casseroles, and everyone has their own little twist on it, and their own little. It's like we need to have a big kind of thing
A
with
casserole
it. Everyone brings a
bake-off.
breakfast casserole.
I love that.
I would be in heaven. That would be it.
I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah.
My mom always made one with sausage and Pepperidge Farm croutons that go in it. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
really good. And they get all mushy because it's,
No, my grandmother made some, and being young, I thought she was the only one who ever made them.
Oh,
it was
me
my
too.
first introduction to it, and it was my favorite thing ever, and she only made it on certain occasions. Eventually, when I got older, anytime I was just coming to visit, she would make one. But yeah, so anytime I see them, I'm always like kind of reminded now, none of them are as good as my grandma's. I'm just saying. You can't beat that sentimental taste to it. But all these other ones have been like really wonderful and
See,
great.
I don't have those like food memories from like my childhood at all because my grandparents that lived here, so the ones I like saw, they both had high blood pressure, and my mom was so afraid of having high blood pressure that none of them ever cooked with salt. Oh. So everything was super bland and like tasteless. Or like I remember when my mom would make vegetable soup without salt, y'all. It was not good. It was very tomato-y, but like not like she didn't put sugar or salt in it to like counteract the acidity. It was just like it was not good.
Y'all, Christy's childhood.
No movies.
So not only did she not have TV,
No TV.
She didn't have taste. Like literal just taste her food. It was
afford
all
salt.
bland food with no TV.
It's just I was outside a lot, you know. We picked berries.
That's right. When you went off to college and you actually bit into a P. Terry's burger. P. Terry burger. You're like, what is this? And they go, wow, Kristen, that's flavor.
I know. Well, see, okay, I never had like soda. I had it before, but I never really we didn't buy it ever. And
even then, it was probably off-brand.
It was not till I started dating my husband that
he corrupted you.
He did. He was like, he
that.
Introduced me to Dr. Pepper. I had never had it. I'd never had Dr. Pepper my whole life. And I was like, this is incredible.
This is like those like movies like where it's like someone you're like from the past and then you somehow get brought to the future and you're like, what is this? Well, Christy, this is a car. What? You're just being introduced to everything new. Anyways, that'll make a good movie. So let's get back to the sermons now. But yeah, VBS, and because that really does tie into what we did on Sunday, because the sermon series, Like a Good Neighbor, St. Peter's is there. I know. That reminds me of our sponsor.
Does REM sing
The General.
that? No.
The General Motor Insurance. What was that?
I said, does REM sing that?
Yes. We've been doing Like a Good Neighbor, and so it kind of wraps up here. You were able to do all 3 sermons for that, right? Or no, I did
you
one.
Did welcome,
I did one, but
yeah.
then you did 2.
Yeah.
But everyone was able to get through 3 of them because Pat did his goodbye series and all that. But,
and so like the Element was honestly the most like normal because Pat came to do his like standalone sermon first, and then we had the 3 of the series back to back in the Element. But everywhere else it was like
it's kind of
interrupted,
and then
But his was on serving too.
It did. It fit really well.
Yeah.
And I will say that like the VBS curriculum naturally fit really well too.
Live it out.
Yeah, because it's like when you think about how do you live out being, Christ-like, it's like, well, being a good neighbor, following this like commandment of love and
kindness and forgiveness. What were some of the other ones? It's like they had keywords each day.
I don't even remember the key because I was a floater this year. I didn't teach a
you
class.
Didn't listen to the so-and-so show?
I did not. No, okay. I was usually like checking in the stragglers or then going to see what else needed to be done.
My favorite on the so-and-so show was the Behind the Bible.
Behind the Bible.
That was the first day.
I love that.
Was really cute.
The so-and-so show is like because they use this curriculum, and the cool thing about how VBS is like when they use this curriculum for VBS, like they use some of the very familiar stuff that the kids get all year round.
Yeah.
So the so-and-so show is all year round. Then they do special episodes for VBS. And so that's kind of a cool thing that it's not just this random other thing that they're being introduced to. So it is very consistent. So that's the cool thing. But my favorite thing with the so-and-so show is when he's trying to bake stuff at the beginning.
Oh, yeah,
he didn't know how to crack an egg.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to crack an egg, so he bites into the egg. And he keeps doing it, too. He's like...
Yeah, all the shell was going.
And then
into
even
it.
the kid, I know the adults are kind of shuddering it, but even the kids are like, ew.
Right. Well, I think it just really, it brings the Bible to life for them. So it definitely makes them more engaged. Because one of them said, "This is my favorite part of VBS," and I thought, oh, well. Okay, but
I enjoy it, but I had to go miss out because I had to go to preschool a couple of times. They have Ollie the Owl,
yes.
which isn't as fun.
It is for preschoolers, probably.
Yeah, preschoolers love Ollie.
They wouldn't get all the jokes from the So and So show.
But this Sunday we talked about loving our neighbors, and Alyssa did a great job during the 10:30 service, just tying in VBS with it, talking about what loving our neighbors is, and then Chrissy, you went into your sermon about it, just kind of ending the series. So what do you have to tell us about? About loving our neighbors? Because first was welcoming our neighbors, then it was serving our neighbors.
Yeah.
Now it's welcoming.
So I think,
or loving.
To be completely honest, I feel like when we arrived at this week, I was just like, what is there left to say?
You're right when you say it all kind of blends together because welcoming our neighbor dealt with the Good Samaritan. And then he helps him. So you think, oh, well, that's serving. Well, no, that was welcoming.
That was welcoming, yeah.
But it really does all, intertwine.
And there's others, there would be other passages and things we could point to about welcoming or about serving. Like, there's a lot in loving, there's a lot in the Bible about all of this stuff. But, trying to parcel out welcoming your neighbor and serving your neighbor is probably the easiest part. But then trying to say, okay, well, now we got to just talk about loving our neighbor without including the everything else we talked about with welcoming and serving our neighbor, I found that to be such a challenge. I'm just like, I don't even know where to go with this sermon because it's I'm like, how do we talk about loving your neighbor without talking about welcoming and serving your neighbor when that's how Jesus talked about loving your neighbor is by welcoming and serving your neighbor,
Or when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat.
Even in the First John,
that was serving, but that's also loving.
Even in the First John passage we talked about, it's like, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person, right? So it's literally that's about serving. That's about being there for those in need. So I felt like that was the challenge with this sermon, was kind of parceling those things out. But the thing that I felt like was important to address is, and you kind of brought this up, Chad, in your first sermon when you talked about welcoming and the element, was about some of those myths, and one of them was that and I don't remember how you phrased it, but basically that we serve our neighbor and we welcome our neighbor to look good or get into heaven or, something like that.
Yeah, we help others. Yeah, we welcome or we help others so we could get into heaven.
Yeah. So it's sort of this, the motivation is wrong, right? And so I think I wanted to kind of focus on that at first, just kind of address that's not why we welcome and serve. The reason that love has to be part of this equation is because it falls apart. It doesn't mean anything without love being the motivation, for welcoming and serving our neighbors. Because if we're honest, we've all seen it. We've seen people, and I'm not going to name this church or anything like that, but we've just seen it in the world. You've seen this with the hypocrisy of Christians, that we are great at putting on a good show and saying yes, we love you, we'll welcome you, we want to go out and serve on our serve day, but then the rest of the year, the rest of the time, every other day besides Sunday, we don't act like that, Yeah. And so I think the important thing in what we talked about yesterday is what love actually looks like, that first it's the laying down of your life. That's what Jesus shows us. This is what love is. It's laying your life down, right? For one another.
Here's my life. I lay it down. Isn't that a song?
I don't know. Did you just make it up?
I know. I think it was we used to sing that in worship. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Maybe that just came to you.
I know, maybe.
It's a prophetic moment. But yeah, we lay down our lives. And, that's what First John is all about. It's just love that lays its life down.
Surprised you didn't get to, because you focused on 1 John 3.
Yeah.
I know 1 John, I think it's 4, really gets into the love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Love, beloved, love.
It's literally,
like-
this is where you preached a sermon once in the Element where you had everyone stand up
Yeah.
and then sit down every time you said the word love. And
They
you just,
gotta work out.
They got to work out. I was not there. I remember watching online and just seeing people's like heads pop up and then pop back down, go back down and up and down.
People were checking their pulse at the end. Like, oh gosh.
Yeah. But yeah, I talked about 3, and then I did jump over to 4 to talk about, perfect love casts out fear. Because that was another point I wanted to make too, is that, loving your neighbor is like the antithesis of like fear and fear of welcoming and serving our neighbors and stuff. Because fear is like truly like when you think about like what's the opposite of love, it's not hate, it's fear. And fear begets hate, right? Like that's where hatred comes from, is out of like this place of fear. Fear is really like that root emotion or real sin, actually, that causes all of these things that make us show like not love to our neighbor, right? Like, but hatred or, not welcoming, not serving, and all of that for our neighbors. So, I wanted to talk, about that, like kind of throw that kind of piece in there, and how when we live out this love that Jesus shows us in like the laying down of our lives, it lays down fear, and it becomes that's how we achieve this like perfect kind of love. And out of that love, then we have that's our motivation to then like go out and welcome and serve our neighbors. And so I talked a lot about 1 Corinthians 13. I probably focused more on that than I did on any other passage, but
well, before you get to that, like you reminded me of a quote from Yoda in Star Wars.
Yes, because I'm very well versed in this.
You want me to try to do it in my best Yoda voice?
Go for it.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I sense much fear in you.
All right. So that
was awesome, Chad.
That was excellent.
But whenever you said that, it's just like it really is that idea of fear being this, like it really is the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me read it normally. Fear is the path to the dark side, which in Star Wars, it's not good.
Yeah.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And so it's just that path you go on. It's just it's taking you further away from love.
Right.
It's just taking you further away, and sadly, I see that in people.
Well, in Carl's sermon, he talked about kind of our normal bent is to not necessarily love. I mean, I think we're I don't want to say that he didn't say we were inwardly loving, but when we look to go help a neighbor, it's just not our natural bent. We are afraid to do it. And so I think he talked about we have to be aware of that and really intentionally go past it and go help others, no matter what we're, naturally inclined to not do. So I thought that was a good point too, that sometimes you have to just step out of your comfort zone and actually do something.
Yeah.
So that's hard.
It is.
That's hard because a lot of people, you just got to try it someday or find ease yourself into it. So help out at different places.
I mean,
maybe help you.
Fear, I think the fear is like so multidimensional too, because, you have a fear of rejection. Like even if you have that good thought of like, I'm going to go help that person, it's like, what if they like are offended that I'm like coming to help them or something, or just like, I'm fine, I don't need your help or whatever. And then one thing that really I was thinking about was like, there's this fear of like not being accepted, I think, people just like when thinking about like trying to welcome your neighbor, serve your neighbor and all of that, or just like be loving to one another. Like, it's like, well, what if I'm not accepted? What if my love isn't accepted? Right. But there's also this fear, I think, in our culture that like, if we don't agree with someone's lifestyle, that we can't love them or else it means that we accept their lifestyle. And love and acceptance are not the same thing, right? Like love, when you look at the definition of love in 1 Corinthians 13, it does not say acceptance. It says all of these other things, patience and kindness and not boasting and not being proud. Like these are what love is, like not looking at someone's wrongdoings and keeping a record of them, like not insisting on your own way. Love is just being patient and kind. And, like, I mean, this is that shows you what love is. It's laying down your own life. It's laying down your own agenda, for someone else,
And that's what with the Good Samaritan, again, like the point of the Samaritan helping out, because I'm guessing the guy Jesus was talking about was a Jewish guy. I mean, he was talking to Jewish people.
Right. It's most likely, scholars believe that it was probably a Jewish man.
It's a parable. He doesn't say a Jewish guy was walking. He just says a man was walking from something to Jericho.
But naturally, if you're hearing this story, you're going to put yourself in that place of the man, right?
And Jesus uses a Samaritan, so chances are it wasn't another Samaritan.
Right.
But again, the point of the story wasn't like the Samaritan didn't try to make him turn Samaritan, or to their Samaritan ways and the way they viewed God and some of their practices and all that. Like, it wasn't about that. It was just, you're in need of help.
Right. It's just love.
Yeah. And that was what the whole illustration of, like, when I reminded people about Hurricane Harvey and all that, is just like, like that was love. And it wasn't about, I guess, about the acceptance. It's like, it doesn't matter about you, what you're doing or anything in your past or anything. Come here. Let me help you. Let me help you. And that is love.
I always, it's funny, I've been married 31 years, and so now occasionally people say to me, well, how do you stay married so long? and I cannot say I'm an expert, but one of the things I've always told people is I feel like love is a verb. And you talked about the Corinthians passage being the marriage, because every wedding you go to, love is patient, love is kind.
Right.
But honestly, I do feel like that's the biggest thing. You have to, it goes back to that intent. You have to intentionally love the person, even when, and we're not, we live in the same house, but sometimes I don't like him,
Yeah.
Most of the time I do, but there are days when I'm like, but you still have to love that person, and you have to show them grace, and you have to, and I think you take that out to all things. Is if you when you see other people, I agree with you, it doesn't matter what their background is, it doesn't matter what their lifestyle is, it just matters that they need you to show them grace and love and all the things that Jesus showed everybody. It's the hardest
thing, and that's why it's like, when Jesus is like, this is the singular, like, most important commandment is, to love God and love one another. It's like, that's going to be the hardest thing to do.
It is.
And I, in Galatians, in chapter 5, Paul actually whittles it down to the singular, like the most important commandment. He just says, love one another, whittles it down to
You'll
that.
know my disciples,
right?
By your love for one another.
So it is the hardest thing to do, because we're people. I joked in my sermon that Justin and I, we didn't have 1 Corinthians 13, I don't think, in our wedding, but like, that everything that verse says, I'm like, I feel like when I said our wedding vows, promised all of these things, it wasn't empty. I meant it, but like, I didn't really know what it meant, and I'm like, till like 10 years into marriage, I'm like, I feel like I'm finally like, I'm 13 years this year,
lucky number
13. But it was like probably a little less than 10 years. But anyway, some of the students in the AV booth were like, she didn't love you for 10 years.
He was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, we made it through.
Yeah. I introduced her to salt.
Yeah. And Dr. Pepper.
She was living on the excitement of all the things.
I'll marry you. Yeah. But no, I feel like I remember that we were going to a church. I guess we'd been married for like a year or two, and the pastor challenged all of the married people to say their wedding vows to each other, to like literally like stand. It was some like marriage sermon series, I guess they were doing, but he would just stand like holding hands, facing each other, just like you did on your wedding day, and say your wedding vows to each other. And I remember I like cried saying these vows
Shocking.
again. I
Well,
know.
It doesn't take
Shocking.
much, really.
But I was like,
He could have said, stand up and share your favorite month. I just don't know. They're all so wonderful.
but I mean, it was just like, it just hit me how, like, when I said them the first time, I was like, I didn't really know what this was. But now having lived it out for, a couple of years, I'm like, man, this is this is big stuff, And I think that, like, we continue to become people of love, and understand, like, the gravity of that more and more when we continue to lay our lives down for one another, like 1 John says, and live like this love of 1 Corinthians 13,
And you did mention something that Pat, he shared with me whenever I was doing a wedding, and he said, like, this is what he likes to do, and it's if they choose that verse, and I think he says even if they don't choose that verse, he'll still throw it in there because it's always so good to throw in your own name.
Yes, yeah.
Throw in your name or whatever, because it just says love is patient, love is kind, love is this.
Right.
But if you say Chad is patient. Chad is, so you use the bride and the groom, and
no.
I know. you mentioned their names, saying, like, this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I always found it interesting because it says love is patient. Okay, that's a good virtue. Love is kind. That's a good virtue. It does not. Then it starts going to not stuff,
yeah.
and I was just kind of, well, geez, like, why is it doing that? And whenever you mentioned in your message, in your sermon about we do good things, there's a difference between just doing good things and then doing it out of love.
Yeah.
Right. And so that I was thinking about that, like, boastful, like, love is not boastful. So it's not about, look at me, look at what I'm doing, I'm doing this for, I hope everyone sees how good I'm doing. It's just like, I did it because it was needing to be done.
Right.
I did it because because I love you, and so I'm doing this, and it's not about getting anything in return. I don't know, something about that kind of stuck out to me because I've never really thought about it much, about, like, not boastful and all that, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think just, like, again, like, I think looking at that verse, which I call that, like, a Hobby Lobby verse, passage. I have, like, the little Hobby Lobby ones. I'm like, you can find this at Hobby Lobby.
It's right next to Live, Laugh, Love.
Yeah.
Bless this mess.
Yeah.
Looking at it through, like, a 1 John lens, where you're talking about, like, laying down your life, and then, like, how this perfect love casts out fear. Everything that you read in 1 Corinthians about love is laying down yourself, like, you're laying down your pride, your agenda, your whatever, your ambitions, like, all of that, like, you're laying all of that down, first to God. And I think that's an important thing, right? That, like, we lay down our lives at the foot of the cross, and we are like, okay, I am, my life is yours, God. You do with me what you will. And then we are raised up with Christ, right, by the Holy Spirit to be used in the world. And so then it's not like our life. It's not like, we are stewarding this life for God's purposes, and God's glory. And so when we love, like, that's the Christ-like kind of love, because we're no longer afraid of, like, well, if I lay down my life, then what happens to me, right? Like, we know that it's in the arms of God. Like, we are okay. We are good. We are accounted for. We are going out into the world to do the work that God has set us to, and laying down our life is what that looks like. Loving our neighbor and welcoming them and serving them out of that love.
Yeah. Well, good. This has been a good series. It is always good reminders. It is something that you go to different churches, and I don't know. There was a time where I felt like every sermon I heard was just kind of a vague, generic thing about love and all this. But I really think it's important for us to really focus in on, like, what exactly that means.
Yeah.
And I think that this series has helped us do that, and it's just something we just need to always be reminded about what exactly this is. Because when I try to... It's so difficult to try to teach people because so many people will throw out that they're Christian and they're the church. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I just don't see love. in their actions, in their words, what they're posting
Yeah.
on social media and all that. It's just like, and I can't tell you I have all the answers for whatever it is, political or whatever, but is there love in that? Like,
Right.
what is the way to turn? I see your fear in this. I see your worry. How can you twist that to where you can still fix it but still show love? Like, that's why John Wesley with his, like, do no harm was a big thing. Do good, do no harm. Somehow they have to go together. You can't just do good and somehow somebody's getting hurt from it. Somehow it needs to encompass everything. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
I think it is like and I said this, on Sunday too, but like this is one of the most challenging times in history to be a neighbor, like to be a good neighbor and love our neighbor. And, just like you said, like, I don't have the answers. I mean, I'm as confused as everybody else when it comes to all this political drama and like everything else happening in the world. But everything that we do, every decision we make, everything that we say, weigh it with love. Go back to laying down your life. Go back to 1 Corinthians 13. Did it hold up? Was that choice, would it hold up to 1 Corinthians 13? Like, if you put that on the scale, how would it hold up? And I think that that's just a good, checkpoint for us. Because it can look kind of, I think people can make arguments on both sides of issues and things like that. I think you just, you gotta have to, you weigh it with love. Where's the love? Where's the motivation? Is it fear or is it love?
So even if you're at a social gathering and someone random shakes you, do your best to show love to that
be
person.
patient and kind
I
and
had
not
to be very
rude,
patient.
not irritable. Yeah.
Well, that was this. Man, June was a pretty interesting month in terms of the sermon series because Pat was going and all that.
In terms of lots of things, Chad,
yeah.
June was interesting.
June was a crazy month. But
here at St. Peter's, we have been having a time.
Luckily, everything's going to slow down and be much simpler for
Uh-huh.
July.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to be.
And where are
simple.
you going next week, Chad?
Yeah, that takes us to, that takes us to our ministry shout out. Army, United, stands for, in case people don't know, United Methodist Action Reach Out Mission by Youth.
That's a
Army.
Mouthful,
It
yeah.
is. Or United Methodist Army, whatever you want to call it. But Army, it's our high school mission trip. I think this is going to be my 22nd or 23rd one to attend.
That's
because
awesome.
I went all 4 years in high school, did it through college, and then once I got in student ministry, just went every year then. But yeah, we're going. So we go to different towns in Texas. We meet up with other churches. So we are going to some of our Katy area United Methodist churches, but we're also teaming up with DeKalb, up closer to Texarkana, and we've done stuff with them before. And so, yeah, we're going to my hometown of Lufkin, and we're going to be serving there. We're going to be staying at First United Methodist Church there, and we're going to be having students divided up into different teams, and then they scatter out into the community to do, whatever repairs they're capable of. Sometimes it's building wheelchair ramps, repairing porches, painting, yard work, anything except for like electrical and plumbing, pretty much. And so we just go out and we visit with people and we serve and help them, and we get references from other organizations that are already helping people in town. So we're just pretty much teaming up with them. And then along the way, we have a lot of fun with theme nights, and we have worship in the morning and in the evening, and there's lunch devotional. So there's plenty of time of scripture and remembering why we do all this. So that's our ministry shout out. It is a lot of fun. Our adult leaders love going and serving. And y'all mentioned how people take off work for VBS. Like, people will take off work for Army. Like, some people, this is their...
And it's not like a restful, not that VBS is restful either, but
right. No, it's not.
But you're
going out there working in the heat and all of it. Some people just love it.
Well, my three boys will tell you that was their favorite thing to do ever the church. I mean, they loved it and still talk about it to this day. I think 2 of them went with Chad, and the other one was too old for Chad. So,
Who is it? Was it you? I was talking to someone the other day. Was it you who did you and Sable like meet at Army or
No, we didn't
something
meet
happened? Okay, I was trying to remember.
I remember somebody did.
Who was it? Was it Alyssa and Ross?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Or it was a camp or something that they met at.
I think it was Army.
Okay.
I like there's
It may have been them.
because I was telling some high school girls that I took to beach retreat, and when we were driving home, they were talking about how excited they were for Army, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, actually, I think I know someone who met their husband at Army, and they were like, really?
now you've set them up for.
Don't give them ideas.
Oh dear.
No, but it is great. And whenever you mention I don't know how to explain it. Because on paper, if you advertise this to students, it doesn't look like it's the most fun thing, right? Because you can advertise, oh, here's this camp over here with, you go swimming in the lake
Zip
and
line.
here's zip lines and all this.
Or you can go do manual
Or
labor.
you can come here and you dig post holes and you have to mix cement and you have to cut wood. But for some reason, students go to it and they come back going, that was the most fun. Because it really is like it's all team building and it's problem solving. You're having to work. A lot of these students have never worked on this type of stuff before. And so it's putting them outside their comfort zone. A lot of them really do get to see what it's like to serve other people and to do that out of love because we're not getting anything in return. We're not doing this for a profit. We're not getting money in return. We're just going out there to serve and help people because they've asked for help. I don't think it was Army, but it was a mission trip similar that I went on as a student. And I remember the woman whose house we had scrape paint off of her house, and then we were repainting it, and then doing stuff in her yard and fixing trim work and the roof. It was a lot of work needed to be done to her house. And I remember we asked what paint color she wanted on her home, and she picked blue. That's I'm pointing to this piece of paper. Yeah,
it was
the dark.
No,
it's just blue,
bright. It
vibrant
would
blue.
pop out blue, and she was just I just wanted it to be happy and just remind me of, and it was the color of our shirts. I forgot about that. Yeah, it was the color of the shirts we were wearing. She's I just wanted to remind me of you guys coming here and helping, and I was
you still call them clients, right? So
which homeowners
is right. It's so one of the things that Jarrett talked about, my oldest, was just how much he loved talking to the client, to the person, because they were super appreciative, but also just had such incredible stories to tell. A lot of them are veterans and have kind of come across hard times, but had incredible things to share about their love for Jesus and their faith. And so that's what he came back with, which to me is even better than all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
No. There's times of that, but then it's a learning moment for students because sometimes you get a homeowner that you're helping, and they are just absent, or they by their words seem like they're unappreciative.
Right.
Because I've heard them come out and critique people and this is terrible and all.
Right.
But then it's a learning moment to the students going, hey, here's why we helped them. We were able to help. I understand their attitude, they didn't share it, but you know what? We're not going to go and undo it or anything, right?
This is
it's not
grace.
About that.
Yeah, this is grace, and this is love.
That's love despite.
It is love despite. Yeah,
yeah.
we don't
get that too often, but it has happened.
Yeah.
And it's just but it's still this learning moment, and sometimes, So
and in 10 years they may think differently, So.
Yeah. And sometimes I was a work team adult on one side. I was out there with students, and we thought we could finish with this project way faster than we did, but no, it took all week, and we were kind of disappointed that it took us so long to do it. And our students were kind of upset, saying, "Oh, all these other groups got to do this many sites, and they got to do this and this and this and this." But I was just you know what? It may have taken us longer with this, but she has not been, our person we're helping has not been able to leave her house for I don't know how long because she was bound to a wheelchair. Now she can because we built this ramp for her. So don't look at it in terms of, well, man, we could have done this faster. Okay, but we did it.
Yeah.
And now she can leave her house in a safe way. And And so it's just a matter of just looking at it. So it is a great experience. I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely give a report to y'all when I get back and all that. So it's going to be great. So
That's awesome.
So we're going to be starting, just be patient with us through July because there is kind of a sermon series, but at the same time, we're getting a new senior pastor.
Woot woot!
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think there's 3 separate sermon series. I think each venue is doing their own thing.
So we'll try our best to talk about all of them, or we may just have to talk about point out one. We'll eventually have Preston on for his first time. And we're looking forward to him and his family coming along and being a part of, being a part of St. Peter's.
Yeah, so he will be here preaching his first sermon at the Kingsland campus on July 13th. So he's going to do both. He's going to be 2 places at once. He's going to do both 10:30 services on the 13th. So we'll have him in the element, and then, we'll do the rest of the service after he goes over to the traditional service.
If you see him running in his sneakers,
Yep.
don't try to stop him and
That's
talk
right.
to him. He's
That's
probably
right.
running back to his next sermon.
He pushes you aside, and it's like, that's your
Move
first
it. Yeah.
introduction.
He'll have handlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like just ready to go though, and I think that's great that that he's going to be in both services on the same day, and we don't have to wait in one or, for the other. And
there'll be a reception that day here
Yes.
at the Kingsland campus, and then out at West on the 20th, and a reception there. So.
Yeah, and then on the 27th, we'll have a goodbye reception for Whitney here on the Kingsland campus. So it's been this
party month.
Sugar summer,
Sugar summer.
Summer
I
of
love
sugar.
it.
Everyone's like, is this the church that has cookies every time?
Every time.
Every Sunday.
Yes.
Every Sunday.
I believe we're going to have a sugary treat this Sunday too. Just in case we don't, I won't tease you with it, but I think we might.
Yeah. Well, be looking forward to that, and we'll see y'all next time on the Next Day Podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.